Hey guys.
I like this.
Yes, great. So Carmelo, I'm going to start off with you. It's been
Yes.
two decades, 2 decades, a little bit more than 2 decades since you started. What do you think has been the most transformative change involving technology and athletes?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me here and allowing me to speak to you guys today. It's an honor. It's a blessing for me to be sitting here on this stage. So I just want to say thank you guys for listening to me today. But to get back to your question and to answer your question, I just think over time, from an athlete standpoint, we've been seeing different types of technology. I mean, for myself, over the past 20 years, I remember back in 2003 when we came in and they would introduce different technologies to the team and we would just be like, what is this? Why? We don't need this. This is not going anywhere. And to look fast forward now and all of those kind of different technologies and different concepts that was being thrown at us at that point in time. We look at them now. You see the wearable technology. You see the wearable shirts. You see you see the chips that's out there that goes into the uniforms that get all this intel and this data. So it just goes to show you that in that short period of 19, 20 years where it's been, and now where we're about to go at in the future.
How do you think it's changed the game? I mean, coming in, looking at the athletes now, if you had that technology back then, how do you think it might have changed?
Oh man, that's the cheat code. It's like you know competitively, right? You get a chance to, if you use it the right way, it's very beneficial to you. And for me, if I had that during my time of playing, you talking about scouting reports, you talking about film, you talking about breakdowns, offenses, defenses, X's and O's. You ask questions, right, and you get answers back, right? It may not be the feeling that you want back, but you get a grand scheme of what that answer is. So the skies is the limit. I think I'm excited about it from seeing where it was at and being a part of it for a couple seasons in the NBA to where it's going. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Dan, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little earlier. I started my company in 2001. I think you entered the league in 2003. In those early 2000s, it was so new.
Yeah.
I mean, no one knew what to do. So in the early days, it was all experimentation. And what it's created is really everybody closer to the consumer or fans. So whether it's athletes closer to the fan or networks, even now we're still seeing that evolution like Gotham networks, direct to the consumer. The NFL is going closer to the consumer. And we've seen an arc with this emerging technology that it just allows a different type of relationship at all levels, community, leagues, teams, athletes, and that's really been the fundamental difference. It's created platforms in ways that we didn't understand, I think, in the early 2000s.
You work with the NFL to recreate their app, and you also work with the Commanders as their relaunch. Talk about how your work with both those organizations was also designed with fan engagement in mind and to connect the fan and the athlete as well.
Yeah, the Commanders were coming from a place with a historically racist name that really was hurtful to a lot of people. So that really was, how do you build a modern brand in an inclusive first approach to branding, which I don't believe has ever been done, certainly not done in sports. So data and listening and different tools to help generate ideas to create an outcome that can re-engage a community in a new type of way. The NFL was about how to deliver an experience, again, closer to a fan, to simplify that, to make it meaningful, whether it be during field time or off the field time, and understanding the difference between those moments and how an experience actually should be different during those moments.
Can we talk about how that's changed? I remember, I'm a Knicks fan.
Thank you.
And coming out and watching you, when I wanted to catch up with you, it'd be ESPN late at night, catching the highlights, sports radio, and now it's almost second by second. You can catch up and watch highlights and get stats and so forth. How do you think that's changed the fan-athlete relationship?
For me, I think it's very, it's very beneficial. It forces the athlete to think differently, right? Because before we was engaging with fans with what the team was telling us to do. Hey, go to this appearance and pop up here and do this autograph signing, and that's how you engage with the fans. But that's not the way you engage with them. I mean, that's a part of it, but it's like you really have to dive deep into the actual engagement. So if I have an opportunity to, after a game, have my own press conference and talk directly to my fans as opposed to using a third party, a news outlet or a media outlet, like I can go directly to my fans. I feel more comfortable getting my point across and getting my message across to my fans as opposed to it's being filtered through somebody else. So for me, that's the biggest thing that I really love about that. Just controlling your own destiny and controlling your own narrative.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a removal of limitations, because historically, this is the way you did it. You did sponsorship a very specific way. Again, you were supposed to show up here. Now, there are no limits. And I think athletes have the ability, as I think you have done, to move beyond just what happens on the court. And that's where you see even programs like Drive to Survive, like what are the narratives around the narratives? Because it's not just what's happening there, it happens beyond there, and I think it allows, again, enablement of a certain level of control to remove any limitation that historically has existed.
Carmelo, do you think that has also helped athletes today? We have your wine here, Ben 7th and State, has helped athletes today to broaden out their perspectives in businesses and what they do. Maybe this wouldn't have been as much of an option 20 years ago because you might not have had the info and the data and so forth.
Well, the industry has changed, dramatically and drastically. Sorry about that. And so where it was that before, and we just using wine for an example. Like this wasn't a cool thing to do. This wasn't, as an athlete, you was looked upon, you was frowned upon if you was drinking wine, because it just wasn't for us. It wasn't for a younger demographic. It wasn't for athletes. We look bad if we're drinking wine and alcohol and things like that. And to now, over the years, athletes has become so, empowered by just resources in society, whereas though we took back our voice as an athlete. It's almost like we taking back our name, image, and likeness, in a sense, to be able to go out there and speak directly to the fans, to create businesses, to create this inclusivity, among different communities and different people. So now it's fun. I could be here in Lisbon talking about wine as a former athlete, and before you couldn't do that. It was just such a hurdle to get over because it just wasn't accepted. But I also think with technology and the fact that we can actually talk directly to our consumer and to our fan, and we can give them that information as opposed to them having to go out there and search for it. That's what I'm excited about, and I think that's the difference between athletes and resources and outlets from 20 years ago to 2024.
Do you see the same, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no more stigmas in anything, any possibilities. That's really what good, removing limitations. I mean, even beyond athletes, you have direct-to-consumer businesses that have reach in ways that they've never been able to do. You can have disruption in categories from not traditional players. Like the wine industry isn't being disrupted by a winemaker, and whether you're an athlete or a startup, you have the ability to reach people regardless of your location. We have the equalizer, the great equalizer, which is the internet and mobile phones, that puts it in the pocket for anybody to have either access or ability to do anything. And that's pretty remarkable.
Is there ever a downside by having that direct connection to fan? We talk about fan emotion, and I know your Knicks fans can get very emotional. Is there ever a downside to like the toxicity of fandom and so forth that you kind of wish that could be changed a little bit?
No, because it's community, right? It's when you in a community, you want honest information. You want everybody to have an honest approach, whether they disagree with it or agree with it or whatever. So you want them to be honest with you. That's how I learned. Be honest with me. Let me know that my wine is not nothing. Then I'll go back and try to perfect it again. But I think that dialogue, going back and forth, and that boomerang of information, and to disagree to agree as a community. I think we need that. It's very beneficial.
Look, I believe discourse is the unlock to creativity. So I actually think disagreement is what humanity needs, and in a productive way, it creates incredible outcomes.
When your son is about to, I believe, start Syracuse.
Hopefully.
Okay. What advice do you give not only him but younger athletes as far as how to use technology, how to use, these new platforms in order to be the best versions of themselves, whether it's an athlete or as a brand, both?
With my son, it's more about me listening and observing what he's doing, because you got to think he's 17 years old, so he's in the industry where this is constant. That's the only way he know how to communicate, right? So I have to look at him and just observe from afar and see the things that he's into, see the apps that he's on, see all the different technologies that he utilizes on a day-to-day basis. And then now I sit back and say, okay, here's how I'm going to come into this and infiltrate this, and here's how I'm going to build this based off of watching him and observing him and his friends, because they are the generation that is going to, it's going to expand, it's going to blow up, it's going to grow so much that for me, I have to really be a student at this point in time for them to lead in this generation.
You know what's funny about that? I have 5 kids, and I've run a digital agency for over 2 decades, and I thought I'd outsmart my kids, and you don't outsmart the kids in technology.
What are some of the things that your kids are teaching you?
I mean, look, they can live in virtual lives in ways that we don't understand. It's like, I remember when I was a kid, it's like watching TV. It's like when I was a kid, and then I find myself in the same thing, and I can't comprehend it, how it rewards them in ways that they engage, and it feels like they're connecting and having meaningful relationships, and who am I to judge sort of thing, other than judge as a father.
We got to know when to fall back.
Yeah.
You gave a talk earlier about how the internet sucks.
Yep.
And talking about how the internet doesn't really work for us like it once did. And I'm wondering how you think it can work better for us.
Yeah, I mean, I truly do believe the internet sucks. I mean, look, we've had it for now 2-3 decades in our lives. But if you look at, in the course of human history, it's quite narrow and small and actually quite immature. And we've really been focused on the functional part of the internet, and we haven't really tapped into the emotional part of the internet. So I believe we're going from like an IT to an ET in the future of the world, where that emotional technology can actually give value in ways we've never even understood from a digital platform perspective. I mean, it's and some people are like, oh, it does so much, but like travel sucks. Engagement with entertainment, I'm searching through like rows of columns and I can't ever find what I want, and then I go on TikTok and I spend 30 minutes and I don't feel rewarded. Like healthcare, it doesn't understand if I have an illness and I'm waiting for results, or I'm trying to book an appointment, the empathy of like how my emotion may be in that moment. And I believe we are now going to go to this new era where actually can have empathy and the range of emotions, and true intelligence can actually deliver different types of value. That needs to be designed, but you actually have to design to solve a different problem, which is emotion and empathy, and not solve just for function, which is where I think we are right now, in its totality at least.
Now, at this conference and just around the world, the conversation about AI has been so integral. How do you think AI will change this next phase for athletes, for businesses, for both? I mean, what do you see?
For me, I think for athletes in particular, sleep, right? Recovery.
Oh.
Again, competition against the opponent, right? Understanding your game, breaking down your game and deficiencies and things like that, taking all of that information and that intel. Again, we go back to wearables, right? And it's like you put a T-shirt on, and you put it, and sometimes they don't even have it. It's just natural wearable. There's no chip that's shown or anything. It's just so fluent that it looks a part of your aesthetics. But that information as an athlete, now we're able to today tap into that information as opposed to having to go to somebody else and wait for them to give us that information. Now we can react and we can respond on how to recover for an 82-game season. And if we're playing 6 games in a week, how do we the quickest way to get back and get rest when we're living on a plane, when it's just a lot that goes on with that. So I think that information and that data when it comes to AI really is beneficial for the athlete, but I think it's only as beneficial as you allow it to be.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't put chips in your head and just have the information in your head.
I mean, we could talk about that.
Yeah. But, I think, look, AI in sports, first of all, the platform that really we speak a lot about this is Cannes Sport Beach, the Davos of sports. Because a lot of this is unknown. We don't, I like to think there's a lot of fake experts out there, and we have incredible technology emerging, but we're yet to really see its material impact beyond sort of like what we've seen to date. And like you said, there's new technology, glasses and whatnot, the fan experience, like there's an amazing technology called Around, where you're in the stadium and you're engaging in different ways with the community that sits around you in the arena. So there's so many different things happening. But I think now's the imagination time. Like, what could it mean to us? What could it mean to an athlete? What could it mean to a fan? What could it mean to a team? I think we are so early in the beginning, but we know it's going to transform because technology always wins. It's undefeated. It will find its way into culture, into athletes, into media rights, and everything in between.
How do you see AI or some of the wearables, the Vision Pro affecting the fan experience? I think I tested out Vision Pro once, and you could maybe be on the sidelines and be able to experience that. Do you feel that will change the fan interaction, or do you think that there's always going to be a place and people wanting to see it live?
Yeah, I think it's a place for everything. It's like movie theaters, going to the movies. Like, we don't have to go to the movie theaters no more to watch movies, right? But we still get the nostalgia of going back to the movie theater and getting your soda and getting your popcorn and going that experience. I think we will still have that in sports, but I also believe that it's happening now. You see people sitting home, and you could be at courtside at a basketball game sitting in your living room. Like, that's really connecting the fans, right? So it's going to get even more crazier out here.
It's going to get crazy. I mean, I like to look at it as this. You have caveman drawings, then you have a photograph, then you have moving image, then you add audio, then you had new amazing ways of distribution from movie theater to in your home to on your phone. It's not inconceivable that maybe it won't just be that one day. It will be more immersed. And yeah, the technology is a little clunky now. You're sitting there with something heavy. But one day, I'm going to want to be courtside.
That's a fact.
I want to sit next to you on courtside of the Knicks, but not everybody can right now, but they will be in the future.
And you take something like Meta with the glasses, right? And the Meta world. And as a fan, I can go and get inside of my favorite player's world, right? He's showing me his world through his lens, right? It's not a phone. I'm showing you through the lens of my eyes and what I'm looking at and what I'm watching. As a fan, if I was able to watch Michael Jordan growing up through his lenses, through his eyes of a pair of glasses, that would have been the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah,
so as a fan now, it's crazy. So
yeah.
As kids now, they have an opportunity to be at a Knicks game when you all the way in Lisbon, right? So it makes sense. I'm excited.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. But before we leave, we want to toast to Portugal.
Yes. This is the first time I've had some wine on the Web Summit. But today we'll be pouring, our nice vintage Ultra Fidelity 2020 out of Chateauneuf de Pop. So we want to do a special toast today. And again, thank you guys. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank
Cheers.
you. And cheers to Portugal. Thank you guys.